Hey everybody, it's Thursday, means it's time for your Thursday Thought. My thought for you today, this fine March 17th, is about legal description and ILCs and surveys. More about ILCs and surveys. So when you transfer a property, there of course is the number and the name of the street that's attached to it, most of the time. Sometimes there are unenumerated pieces of property that get transferred. But the thing that really transfers the property, legally speaking, and the thing that the title insurance is based on, the thing that the lender has their lien against, is the legal description. So it's very important that the legal description is correct when transferring the property. And so sometimes what will happen is that a title company or a lender will ask for an ILC to be done on the property, and so they'll do historical search and they'll see what that past vesting deed, the title company, the legal description was on the general warranty deed, and it'll say lot and block, and it'll say from this pin you're going to go 500 feet to the northwest until you find this pin, and then you're going to make the boundaries of the property depending on how the legal description is written, whether it's a lot and block or whether it's a descriptive legal description. And so that is what they will use, and they'll give that to a surveyor who will go out there and find the lines kind of quickly, draw a sketch of the property, and they'll also take some measurements and they'll draw approximately where the improvements are located on the property. And the reason that they do this, obviously, is that they want to make sure that either the property itself has no structures, no improvements over the property line or on the property line, and that also the neighbor may not have has not put a structure or something over the property line. So they just want to make sure the property line is clear and that the improvements are located inside of it. And so what happens sometimes, especially when you're talking about older parts of the city or you're talking about things maybe a bit more rural up in the mountains, is that property lines aren't super clearly defined by a fence or a wall or a row of trees, or by a ditch or depression, or by any type of natural landmarks, and people will inadvertently or accidentally build something over the property line, or maybe build their fence in the wrong location. And so, the lenders and the title company who is issuing an insurance policy on the history of the property want to make sure that that there's no disparity and that there's no issues with the property, its boundaries, and the improvements that are built on them. So that's essentially what it is. Now, you remember that I told you that the title company typically will take the legal description and give it to the surveyor, and the surveyor will go out there and do their ILC. Where I had an issue recently where we had to get an ILC done, and so I talked to the ILC company, the surveying company, and I said, this is the property that we're transferring, and it's this size, and it was a big piece of property. And then they went out to the property and they called me back and said, hey, we got the legal description from the title company, but the size of its property is only this, and it was a much smaller, about half of what the property that we were transferring was. I'm like, well, that's not correct. And so the title company actually had the wrong legal description. And the reason that came about was that the property had been created by the selling of two different parcels, and what was left made this third parcel. So the owner had two parcels, sold off part of the first parcel, which contained part of this property, and then sold off a second parcel, which contained part of this property, and what was left was the new property. And it had not been transferred since this had happened. Now, the owner had refinanced it, and there was a legal description that was attached with that deed of trust, but that deed of trust actually had an improper legal description, and that's what the title company was utilizing, because that was the last kind of recorded legal description that was utilized for the property. And so ultimately, what would have had to have happened was that we would have had to have gone and got a full survey done to draft a new legal description for this large piece of property. But thankfully, this owner, when he had done all of this, he had actually gotten a survey done with anticipations of maybe building something on this property. And so we actually already had a legal description drawn up from a surveyor 15 years ago. And so it was very, very fortunate that we had that survey and that legal description, because then with that we were able to give that to the title. It was acceptable to them. They then gave it to the surveyor, and we were able to do our ILC off of that. And so it was kind of a complicated scenario because there was a deed of trust, there was what the county had as a legal depiction, if not the 100% description, and we kind of had to scramble to get that past survey over to both title and to the new surveyor to make it all work, and the title company to be able to insure the property and the history of it. So now, for 85% of the deals that I do that are inside the city that have clearly defined lines, we don't really need to do an ILC or a survey very often, but it's important to pay attention to the title commitment and to the legal description to make sure that the actual piece of property that's being transferred is the desired one to be transferred and not either a portion of it or a different one. So pay attention to the title commitment, pay attention to the legal description, and then if you need any help in real estate in any way, shape, or form, I'd love to be a resource to you. Give me a call, shoot me a message, shoot me an email, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. If I don't know the answers, I'll go find them for you. Thanks very much. Hope you're well. Thanks for tuning in to this week's Thursday Thought. We'll see you next week on next week's Thursday Thought. Ciao.